We'll now dive into a global challenge that will likely touch us all. By 2050, the world will have a population of more than 11 billion, according to the United Nations. We have no idea how to feed a population of that size. We particularly have no idea how to feed a population of that size in a world roiled by climate change. Almost all the crops we use to feed people, and almost all our forms of animal husbandry grew up over the last 2,000 years in a world where crops and animals were grown in fairly narrow temperature and precipitation bands. But in recent years, increases in crop yields have stalled, and it's not clear at all what happens to our traditional crops at higher temperatures, less water, and more pestilence. Moreover, more and more of our crops are being used to feed animals. So, the question that people look at in the sustainability world is what will feed the world in 2050? So, for one answer to that question, we've asked Antoine HUBERT, the CEO of Ynsect, a company that is using insects as a new sustainable way to produce feed, food, and chemicals. Antoine.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. We really had 2 fantastic days of innovations, and I hope you will have still small attention to hear about another innovation, the Crawley innovations, Ynsect. And I will explain you how and why Ynsect could be a new sustainable way to produce feed and food and chemicals. So I'm Antoine HUBERT, I'm CEO of Ynsect, and Ynsect is a France-based company. But since few weeks now, we are partly Singaporean because we closed a new investment deal with a local investment company called New Protein Capital from here. So I will start first with a small story. Just imagine yourself in 2025. Go back from the work in the evening, and you have a dinner tonight with your friends you met 10 years ago in Emtech Singapore 2015. And you want to make something good to eat. So you find smoked salmons, further on maybe shrimps, hesitates, or even sushi. And you're really surprised by this new brand with this new label, naturally and sustainably fed. You look into the packaging and try to understand what is it. And it's written that these fish and shrimps have been fed partly with insects, and it's a way to have a more sustainable and more natural product. So quite interesting, you pick up the salmon and go further. But you look also on the packaging and see that even the plastics, the thin layer of plastics making this packaging is biodegradable. It's a biodegradable plastic and the bio-based plastics. And it's made from chitosan, and chitosan come from the insect shells, insect exoskeleton. So these products, when you eat the salmon tonight with your friends, you will throw away afterwards the packaging, the plastics, not in your bin, but in a compost bin to be able to recycle it in the soil and then recycle, make a plant. So it's a zero loss of carbon, total recycling. You walk further in the supermarket and you come to this strange package with chips. And you think maybe it would be a good idea to pick up chips for the appetizer. And you like the colors of the package, and it says really low in fat. You look, and it's actually insect powder that made these chips. So you say, what a good idea. Let's pick up these chips for the appetizer before salmon and so on. And before going to pay, you'll find this small bottle with some food complements, food pills, and it says, use that if you have eaten too much. It helps digestion. So as you think you might eat too much with your friend tonight, you just pick up a bottle and see it's made from chitosan, again, which is a molecule that helps digestion in your body. So you see, globally, 2025, insect could be in our daily life, in daily products, mainly feed edible products. So now I will let Mr. Bubble explain you how and why this product could be made, products extracted from these three items, proteins, lipids, and chitins. And he will explain you now how it does.
Do you know why we named this fish Bubbles? Well, lately, Bubbles has been making less bubbles than usual. He's only given fishes and more soybeans, but it's not his natural diet. And to be honest, it's become more and more expensive and harmful to the environment. The thing is, fishes usually eat insects in the wild. They love it, and it's good for them. But how can Bubbles eat them also in his farm? And what about his billion friends? Here is an idea. How about farming insects? At Ynsect, we created innovative technologies to raise large-scale quantities of insects and get the best out of them. We do so using rejected food, such as ugly vegetables or cereal byproducts, and virtually no land, and very low CO2 emissions. It's a cheaper and greener way to produce better fish food, which makes Bubbles healthier and happier. People usually think of insects as ugly, harmful little things, but they're already part of our daily lives. We make candies out of this little fellow, for instance. We also make medicines, cosmetics, food, clothes, and soon, even biodegradable plastic out of insects. Bacon sandwich and Goldilocks also eat insects and will soon be able to eat them in their farms. Insects can help us overcome some of the major challenges of the 21st century.
So in a nutshell, Bubble explained you why it's good for him to eat insects, and that this production came from the recycling, the valorization of a biomass, food byproducts. For example, here, during 2 days with the catering, we have eaten quite well, but at the end, each time we had food waste, this food waste could have been used to feed insects. So it's really in a circular economy that we think. It's really a first sustainable pillar, recycling, reducing the food waste all over the chain. You know, in the world today, 1/3 of all the food produced from the field doesn't finish in a plate, in a body of someone. So there are a lot of loss in the world. So this biomass, this biowaste, goes then to feed insects. And how are we doing it? We could have done like this. This is the traditional production of insects. It is in Thailand, where people are eating insects, full insects, just cook in a wok. Actually, if I was using this technology, my final product, the proteins, will be far too much expensive, 1,000 euros a kilo. And I want to sell it at 1 euro a kilo if I want to be on the market. So that's why at Ynsect, we have developed really disruptive technology for farming insects. It's really a 2.0 farming, robotics, robots handling insects, moving them from different places in the farm, feeding them, controlling their health. It's handling with a very high productivity. Billions of insects per square meters in a quite vertical way. So that means even in cities, very dense cities like Singapore, we could have very affordable technologies because it's using very small land use. And at the end, we have a very high quality and a very nice health monitoring of insects. So this insect, after a few weeks, we collect them and we process them to extract, again, these proteins, lipids, and oils through very, very soft technology, mild, green technology, no chemicals, and all insects is made in the free streams, so there is zero waste. So again, it's a sustainable way for processing them, ending up with a very high quality of products. And these products, they go to the nutrition, fish nutrition, indeed, and fish is a very particular focus, as explained Bubble, because it's a huge market, the first growing market in the world in animal feed. and $20 billion world market. It's very huge needs. But poultry, pigs, and one day also human food will be a market, so that bio-based plastics, nanomaterials, or cosmetics products. So everything, we have gathered this innovation platform in a name, Ynsect Biorefinery, that we call the Ento Refinery, a very high-tech technology, 2.0 agro technologies. And Bubble has explained you what is more natural. Again, in the wild, a trout, for example, is eating up to 70% insects. And in his farm, he's eating up to 70% soya meal, and the rest is fish meal. So insect meal, insect proteins are more sustainable because it avoids the depletion of the oceans, because we are fishing a lot in South America, and now the ocean is getting empty. All these fish are feeding the big fish like salmons or shrimps or tilapia. And the soya, then, is just not natural. You don't give people, fish are not eating soya in the world. And it's a more efficient way to produce proteins, meat. I mean, people are more and more on the earth, 10 billion people, and people are having more and more incomes. And when they have more incomes, they are interested to eat more meat. And the meat requires, again, a lot of land, a lot of resources. So Ynsect could be one of the solutions, maybe with algae or maybe with other disruptive technologies like artificial meat, I don't know, in the next smart food grid of the 21st century. And what is interesting, of course, is has economic interest. This is the price of fish meal, and for the last 15 years, fish meal has just exploded because you have less and less fish in the ocean to make this fish meal. So just the price exploded, and $2,500 almost per ton. It's not sustainable for the fish farmers. And our products will be cheaper, around $1,500 and more stable in quality, stable in price. It's just what the industry needs to supply a new sustainable product. So where are we now? I mean, today on the market, there are no insect products, no feed, no food products, no chemical products, except very some local initiatives like in Thailand in a very local way, or even in China, but nothing in the world perspective. So we started at Ynsect 2013, the lab, very small scale, just to develop the technology after some work from the United Nations, and it ended up with some research program with the biggest labs in France and also in Netherlands. And we ended up with a feasibility study, producing a pilot plant, a small factory, 10 tons a year, and which has been allowed through some funds we received from venture capital in France, plus national bank and national agencies of research. And we got some prize and awards for that from the European Union, Climate Kick, Best European Biotechnology in 2013, Best Clean Tech in France, and second Best Clean Tech in the World Final in Clean Tech Open in San Francisco a few weeks ago. Now where we are building the first plant, first commercial plant. So with all the technology, robotized technologies, is currently built and will be operational January 2016, or the first in its kind ever. 1,000 tons of insects. For that, we've just closed a new investment deal, indeed, with our French investors, and as I said, with a local here investor, New Protein Capital, making us a new first step in Asia and to develop this technology for the tremendous needs of the population around here in the region. And we will end up with the first plant in 2018, full commercial plant for the fish feed market, you see, and we want to reach 2025 back in the supermarket. 1 million tons of insects will be on the market, more than 15 production sites. Indeed, for fish feed, to end up at the end to these smoked salmons or even the shrimps or sushis you find in the supermarket. But even products for your cats, your dogs, porks, pigs, and even human food, the chips you have seen on the bench in the supermarket, or these bio-based plastics. So really, insect products in your everyday life. And as it's very sustainable in a way, in recycling, byproducts, bio-waste, small land use, very small water use, very small emission in CO2, and valorization of all the insects with green technologies, no chemicals, it ends up with a lot of CO2 emissions avoided, more than 6 million French annual people emissions. So, really revolutions in new feed and proteins is on the way, not only in France, in everywhere in the world, here in Singapore, in America, and I give you these examples, for example. This is company doing crazy things like artificial meats or soya-based eggs made from soya. So something really, really innovative, and they are raising a lot of money, being now almost profitable. And really, food is a next big thing. And I'm not saying something personally. This guy is saying that. And this guy has been investing in these companies just before, in these agrotech companies. And he's saying that we are really just at the beginning of an enormous innovation in this space of protein-rich diets. And the next big thing will be insects. And it's going to be Ynsect, the insect company. Thank you very much.
What kind of insects?
Indeed, good questions.
Yeah.
We have 1 million species, so we haven't worked on all the species. We have trying to understand which one will be the best for engineering reasons, health reasons, protein content, and so on. Many, many criteria, and we ended up with one species. It's a small beetle, a small larvae that is raised. And our technologies then ensure to produce, to valorize all kind of biomass. And we are working on other insects now, like a fly, to eat fruit and vegetables, or maybe some locusts to eat some fibers, leaves, and so on. But first one, beetle.
And you said the life cycle to grow a beetle to extract protein and lipids and chitins and what have you is around a couple of weeks?
Yeah.
And they eat waste vegetables or discarded vegetables?
Exactly. Exactly. That's the global idea, valorizing byproducts, eating very fastly in a very dense. You know, insects like to be together. I mean, it's very different from poultry. People have been trying for many years to intensify poultry all together, stuck like this, and with a quite not really good well-being. But insects, if you put them alone, they are not really feeling good. They like to be all together. That's why we end up with really intense and high productivity.
I'm trying to imagine these vats filled with insects.
Enormous.
Well, Antoine, you know what I'm going to ask, so sure, fish can eat it. I mean, fish are eating insects anyway, and chickens, who cares? But outside of, Thailand and cultures that are used to eating insects, it's going to be a steep curve to get humans. Let's do a show of hands. How many of you in the audience would like to eat insects?
It's not bad.
It's not bad at all.
Good market already.
What do they taste like, these little beetles?
Depends how you the process. If you remove the oils or the chitin, but basically it's really like a nuts, some nuts taste, or could be some fishing taste, depending on the preparation. So that's why in chips, it makes very good. You don't see it. We made some cakes at some point, some desserts, really cereals. You will never see the difference.
One last question. How did you get into insects as a solution to the global food problem? What drew you to that solution?
So we were 4 founders. Alexis is with me today, and with Alexis, beside our work, we were working in banks, in different areas, in industry, and we have created these non-profit organizations explaining to children how we could have a sustainable way to produce food within cities, urban farming, composting, local stuff. And we found out some days that United Nations were speaking about insects in Thailand, a way to farm insects. And we were doing like vermicomposting, composting with earthworms, and we found a way that actually insect is the same stuff. We can recycle like earthworms, but you can eat them at least, not like earthworms. And they are reproducing much faster than earthworms. So from step to step, we We developed the company, scaled the company. We wanted to sell the products, but we were looking backwards, and nobody was producing the product. So we say, okay, let's do it ourselves.
So we laugh, but it's going to take solutions like this to feed the world we're going to have in 2050. Antoine HUBERT, thank you very much.
Thank you.
you.